So in the last video, we jumped on the ice for a little morning skate to get things going. But in this video, we're going to the Preds game to serve as the emergency backup goalie. So by now I think we all know what an emergency backup goalie is, but if you're still not quite sure, an emergency backup goalie is someone who attends NHL games and serves as an emergency option for both home and away teams, just in case of any kind of goalie situation like injury, illness, or any kind of goalie absence. It's pretty rare that an emergency goalie, or EBUG for short, is activated, but the most famous one is when David Ayres got dressed for the Carolina Hurricanes to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto.
We have word that Dave Ayres, 42 years of age, emergency support goaltender, will be forced into service here for the Hurricanes.
He wasn't the first EBUG to play in a game, though. That one goes to Scott Foster out in Chicago.
Here's 36-year-old Scott Foster, who came to the rink as the substitute goalie, would be available to either team should either club have both goalies get hurt. That has happened to the Hawks.
David Ayres created quite the buzz on EBUGs, and I can still remember sitting at a Preds game serving as the emergency goalie, watching him play from my phone and realizing just how real this whole EBUG thing can be. But since Scott Foster and David Ayres, there have been a handful of other emergency goalies being activated, like my buddy Kyle Conan down in Tampa.
We have an EBUG in the building tonight. Kyle Conan might get the call at some point tonight for the Flyers. Who knows?
And as for me, I've been the emergency goalie here in Nashville since it all began back in 2015, but to this date, I have yet to actually play a game, but I have gotten dressed once for the Boston Bruins and once for the Colorado Avalanche. Still waiting on that Stanley Cup ring, by the way. But since becoming an emergency goalie, I've been extremely grateful for the opportunities I've been given. I've been able to go to so many NHL games and watch the incredible career of my favorite goalie of all time, Pecorine, of course. I've also had the opportunity to watch the entire Nashville Predators team grow and develop through its ups and downs, including an incredible Stanley Cup run back in 2017. And now, I get to watch my new favorite goalie play every night. UC Saros, duh, like who else would it be? It's been so crazy to watch UC develop over the years, and the fact that I get to watch him play in person multiple nights a week is an absolute treat for me. But on top of that, I also get to watch other players on the team develop and grow, like Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi. Not to mention the opportunity to watch other NHL players and goalies from across the league. Speaking of which, the Preds are playing the St. Louis Blues tonight, and normally I like to lay pretty low on a game day, especially after that morning skate, but I always make time for a pregame warm-up with NHL Sensorina. Kind of funny story though, I actually got the call from the Colorado Avalanche immediately after I finished my VR warm-up with NHL Sensorina, and their starter had tested positive for COVID, so they needed me to rush down there to get dressed and serve as their backup for the whole game. I was glad I got a little V-up warm-up in though, because I went from being super nervous to feeling extremely excited about this opportunity. But I was even more excited about jumping in for warm-ups and actually feeling prepared and ready for this challenge. And even sitting on the bench and watching the game, I started feeling like I really wanted to jump in and play, and was excited for the possibility that it could happen at any moment. And since then, I've made sure to get a VR warm-up before every game, just so I can feel confident going into any possible situation. But being an EBUG also comes with the unfortunate disposition that you're only needed when things take a tough turn. Of course, my dream, just like any other hockey player, is to play in the NHL, and being an emergency goalie means that there is a very slight chance that that can happen at any moment during a game. But in order for that to happen, it would require not one, but two terrible things to happen. Something would have to happen to both a starter and a backup goalie. And of course, the last thing I'd want to see is anyone getting hurt, especially a fellow goalie. But unfortunately, injuries are part of this game. The game can't go on without a goalie. That is exactly why the emergency backup goalie was born in the first place. So until the league decides to change this structure, there will always be guys like David Ayers or Kyle Conan or myself to be there just in case any emergency happens and we need to jump in and keep the show going. Until then, we'll be waiting and watching the real players who work so hard to live their dream of playing in the NHL.
On-man rush coming for the Blues. Suter shot!